I'm now calling to order a regular meeting of City Council Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Ms. Rogensey?
Here.
Mr. Dwyer?
Here.
Ms. McGee?
Absent.
Mr. Boyke?
Present.
Mr. Noonan?
Here.
Lafferty?
Here.
Morris here. We have a quorum. Madam President?
Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Tomorrow, we will mark the 23rd anniversary of one of the darkest days in our nation's history. September 11th, 2001 remains etched in our collective memory, a day when the world seemed to stand still as we witnessed unimaginable loss, terror, and grief. Nearly 3,000 innocent lives were taken, and countless others were forever changed. But even in the shadow of that terrible day, we also witnessed the incredible strength of the human spirit. On the eve of this solemn anniversary, we gather not just to remember the tragedy, but to honor the resilience, bravery, and compassion that followed in its wake. We remember the first responders, the firefighters, police officers, paramedics, and everyday heroes, who without hesitation ran toward danger. Many of them made the ultimate sacrifice so others might live. Their courage reminds us of the best in humanity. We also honor the families who lost loved ones. Your grief is profound, and your strength over these past 23 years is a testament to the power of love and memory. We stand with you in remembrance of the lives that were cut short and the dreams that will never be realized. But we also stand with you in celebrating the legacies of those we lost, for they live on in our hearts, in our communities, and in the freedoms we cherish. Tomorrow is a day of reflection. It's a day to pause, to remember, and to reaffirm our commitment to unity. In the days after 9/11, we came together as a nation, people of all races, religions, and backgrounds. We were united by a shared grief, but also by a shared resolve to overcome the forces of hatred and terror. That unity, that spirit of togetherness is something we must never lose. Today, the world is still full of challenges, uncertainty, and division. But as we reflect on the events of September 11th, let us also reflect on how far we've come and the strength we draw from one another. We must remember that even in our darkest moments, we were capable of profound kindness, compassion, and unity. Let tomorrow be a reminder of what we have endured and a reminder of our shared responsibility to build a better future for ourselves, for our children, and for generations yet to come. We will never forget September 11th. We will never forget the lives lost, and we will never forget the lessons learned about courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of hope. And now, Mr. Lafferty, we're lucky to have him. He's such a wonderful singer.
Thank you. Please stand for America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties, above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, Mr. Lafferty. Next item.
Yeah, next item.
Next item, adoption of the consent agenda. So moved.
Support Lafferty with discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. I'd like to remove item 4G.
Madam Chair,
Madam Secretary.
that item will be 14G on the regular agenda.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 5, adoption of the agenda. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore?
Thank you. Madam Chair, we are adding item 14G, which was 4G on the consent. And just to clarify, item 11B is a public hearing.
And C. No.
No.
Yeah. 11B and C.
Okay.
C. Mary says C.
Okay. B and C are public hearing.
Any additional discussion? Makers of the motion comfortable with the adjustments?
Without objection.
Thank you. I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 6A, calendar pending matters. Motion to receive and file.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 7A, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of August 27th, 2024. So moved.
Support Boyke.
Discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 8A, approval of the bills of the General Revenue Fund. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is approval of the bills of the water and sewer system. So moved.
Support Dwyer.
Discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 9, audience participation for agenda items.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Members of the audience who would like to address City Council this evening may do so by filling out an audience form here on the right side of the stage. This is a reminder that you must write your name and address or give it at the podium. You have 3 minutes, and we have a clock in front that will give you your time and how much remaining time you have. This audience is for agenda items only, and there's additional audience at the end of the meeting. First is Lori Harris. Sorry. Ms. Harris, if you could wait 1 minute, I need to reset our clock here.
Start talking.
Oops, no, I want to minus. Hold on. Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
All right, well,
Oh. Try now.
all right.
I'll
It's
add a
on.
little
Lori
bit of
Harris.
seconds.
I am wanting to talk about 4G. I was interested and concerned about this issue. I'm glad it got pulled off the consent agenda. I looked through the e-packet, and I don't see very much information about this. And what I did see suggested this would be a one-time item and then also done for other seasons. That would total $150,000 a year for promoting Parks and Rec and library. And I really want a good discussion on this item. Number one, I want to know what other ways could we advertise that don't cost $150,000? And even if every month, I know it can cost a lot to buy a half page or a page in the Warren Weekly and advertise what's going on the next month, that's still $48,000 and not $150,000. I want to know who's formulating these things that are printed, where are they being distributed, and if we are really looking at saving money or promoting our money to do better things, we need to understand where we can find other ways to do things. And that is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Zamora.
Good evening, Council. Just a quick note. I'm here to speak on Agenda Item 14D, which is consideration of the reappointment of myself to the Downtown Development Authority Board. My motives have always been with the best intentions for our city, and through my previous actions on the DDA Board, I have contributed to the betterment of our city through building and property improvements, vehicles and equipment purchases for major city services such as parks, police, fire, engineering, building services, and others. My DDA meeting attendance record is at 100%. I have served previously on 2 other city commissions before being tapped for the DDA. I appreciate the mayor's faith and trust in me in submitting my name for reappointment to this board, and I hope your vote tonight reflects that same faith and trust. Thank you. And on a side note, Jonathan, you do have a good voice. Usually when they want to clear the place, they'll send me up, but very good.
Thank you, Mr. Zamora. That is the end of audience. Next item, Madam Secretary.
Next item, announcements. Madam Chair.
Ms. Moore.
Thank you. First, a very sad note. Richard Sabah passed away on August 29th, 2024 at the age of 86. Mr. Sabah was a former Warren City Councilman, on the Planning Commission, County Commissioner, Deputy Public Works Commissioner, and his last job before his retirement was as Public Service Director here in Warren. I had the pleasure of serving on the Planning Commission with him, and he's the one that talked me into running for council the first time, one of the people, and then when I got off council, he's the one that tried to talk me out of ever being in politics again. He said I was too nice for politics. So he was always very, very kind to me. We send our sincerest condolences to his family. As many of you know, his son was former district court judge here. He's now in the circuit court. But our condolences to the entire Sabah family.
Moment of silence. Thank you.
And on a lighter note, the Warren Symphonies season is starting on October 13th with a sci-fi and fantasy program that is at the Warren Woods Middle School at 3 o'clock on October 13th. That's a Sunday. If anyone would like complimentary tickets, I actually have some with me, so if you see me after the meeting, come up and I'll be glad to give you some. Also on the 15th of September, Sunday, from 12 to 3 p.m., the Police and Fire Open House will take place at the Warren Police Department. There will be free hot dogs and chips and refreshments, free gun safety locks, child safety ID kits, bicycle helmets for kids. There's a bicycle raffle and lots of activities for kids. It's a really nice family event. The Crime Commission will be there, police chaplains, police explorers. There'll be an EMS display. They usually do some things with the drone, and kids really like to watch that. CERT will be there, evidence technician demonstration, hazmat and tech rescue unit display, SWAT team, tank and motorcycle display, dunk tank. And I hear, I don't know, I didn't confirm this, but the police commissioner may be in the dunk tank, and everybody will have the opportunity to try to put him into the water. Emergency vehicle displays, a smokehouse, building tours, a K-9 unit demonstration. That's always a really popular event for the kids. Bounce house and vehicle extrication demonstration. We hope to see you all there. It really is a nice event, and I hope we have some nice weather that day. And I think that is it for me. Thank you.
Any additional announcements?
Madam President.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes, on Saturday, September 21st, from 9 to 2, the Animal Welfare Commission is going to be having a low-cost vaccination clinic. Vaccines such as rabies and others will only be going for $10. Microchips for dogs and cats will be going for $10. And it's a really fun event. It's been well attended. I believe when we had the clinic earlier this year, there was over 1,500 that came in and participated. The event is located at 12801 Stevens, and that would be between Hoover and Shaner by DPW. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Any additional announcements?
Madam Chair, I forgot something.
Ms.
Sorry.
Moore.
Sorry, I forgot to mention was it Friday we went for our walk? The police organized a walking tour of neighborhoods. We went in groups of 2. Ms. McGee was there, the mayor, people from the mayor's office, and lots of people from the police department. We walked door to door, speaking with residents about how things were going in their neighborhoods. Just sort of reaching out, building relationships. We gave the residents magnets so that they could find the police department on social media, and invited them to the police open house. I think there's plans to do it again in the future and multiple times maybe. It was a really, really positive event. Great feedback from the residents. We hadn't even gotten off the street, and one of the residents had posted something very, very nice on Facebook. They really, really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to the next event, and people are, in fact, last night, one of the judges said, I want to go on the next tour. So I informed the administration today of that. So congratulations, and thank you to the police department for putting this on. Commissioner Rushton, Captain Ballenbeck was involved, and Executive Lieutenant Chisholm, I think, maybe some others, Officer Roy. So thank you all for everything you did.
Any additional announcements? Mr. Noonan.
Madam President, I don't know what the right time to ask this. Melody was already approved to be out of town, right?
Yeah.
So her absence is excused, correct?
We can make a motion, but we did not do that.
Oh, okay, I'd like to make that motion if I could.
Do we have to suspend the rules? We have to suspend the rules?
Thank you so much. I'd like to make the motion that,
All in favor to suspend the
Yeah,
rules?
Motion to suspend the rules.
I'd like to make the motion to suspend the
Hold it.
rules.
Okay.
Thank you.
Support.
Any
I'll
support?
support that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, rules are suspended. Go ahead, you can make your motion.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion that we excuse the absence of Melody McGee because she had actually given us prior notice, and I forgot to mention it when we were at that point in the agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion to resume the rules. Someone?
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back. Madam Secretary.
Next item is 11A, which is a public hearing. This item was tabled on 5/28/2024. Request to approve the demolition of a house and shed at 7551 Prospect through the nuisance abatement program, consideration and adoption of a resolution.
I need a motion to remove this from the table.
Motion removed from the table.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is off the table.
Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Thank you. A discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. And so this one, through the chair to Mr. Lizet.
All right, this property, I have a gentleman has made a commitment with a men's group that is trying to help Mary here get this house in order. I had a discussion with my building inspector, John Pellizzari, who assured me that right now it is not in a dangerous condition. And this gentleman has been helping Mary. I talked to him, he's trying to get donations to get the roof fixed. And the last I spoke with him about 2 weeks ago, and he said he was going to start working on the front windows. Is that correct, Mary?
We have some screens ordered.
All right.
Each of them has to have screens.
So this gentleman basically is trying to round up people from his men's group, I believe is affiliated with the church, to help Mary get a house to live in, because not even sure of Mary's living conditions right now. But he said it's going to take some time, but he's trying to get donations to help Mary get into this house. Mary, you could go ahead and talk to as well.
I do have someone coming out for the electric, someone to come out for an estimate for the electrical work that needs to be done, and some other things coming up. And I am very grateful to the man that he is speaking on.
Madam Chair,
Just
through the
ask
chair
for
to
the
Mr. Lezay, have all inspections been completed? At last check, all of the inspectors were locked out.
Yeah, we did the city cert inspections. Matt, I'm not sure Matt's last name. I do have his phone number, and I've been kind of keeping in contact with him as we move forward with this. And we did he has a copy of the city cert violations. He's trying to get right now with the exterior, the front windows, and his first priority now was to get the windows, the front windows, and the roof is what he was working on. That was our last discussion, which was about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So I'd like to see him. I mean, I've kind of done a 180 on this, and first I kind of went gung-ho, like, I think we should tear this down. After speaking with my inspector and this gentleman helping, I'd like to give Mary a chance to get in this house, if we could.
All right. I'm inclined, based on your update, to table this again, to put it back on the table until
90 days?
we could do 90 days. Let's see here. Bring it back on December 10th, Tuesday, December 10th. Mr. Lezay, is that sufficient time for?
Sure. Yeah, because I'll keep in contact with this gentleman. He's very receptive. He always answers the phone when I call him. But I mean, the last conversation was, like you said, Paul, I want to help her. It's just, to get people to donate, free is hard to ask for. So he's really trying to work with this men's group to help her, and very sympathetic. So I guess it's I think we should get another 60 days or December gives us basically October, November, December, 90 days. And hopefully I'll see something. Hopefully get that roof done, get the roof weather tight, the windows. That's my main thing, get that exterior. I went by today and checked it out. The grass is cut, maintained. So I'd like to see Mary get in this house. I really would.
Of course. All right. If there are no other comments or questions, I'll make the motion to table to date certain, Tuesday, December 10th, 2024.
Support.
Support, Mr. Noonan. Mr. Lafferty.
You gotta call me.
Yes to table.
Mr. Noonan.
What's your phone?
Yes.
What's your phone number?
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Still the same one.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mr. Boyke.
I call
Yes.
you, I need you to call
Rogan
me back
is a
so I know
yes.
what's going on, so I can
Item
move
is
that.
tabled to December 2nd. Thank you, Mary and Mr. Lezay.
What was that last thing?
10th.
10th, sorry. Second, did I say second?
7 p.m.
Sorry. December 10th. Next item.
Next item is 12B, which is a public hearing, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving the demolition of a house and garage at 32431 Howmich under the nuisance abatement program.
Mr. Lezay, can you give us a summary? If you're the resident, I'll call you up in a moment.
All right, this house has been sitting in that neighborhood for, I think, more than 10 years. I mean, I've had 4 months of, I'm not sure if you see the spec sheet, I've had probably 4 months of water usage in the last 10 years. This house is right next to St. Anne's. I was familiar with this house before I worked here in 14. I coached at St. Anne's, and I know people from that neighborhood. And this came into me on a package of a few houses this person owns, or this RCR Management owns. And I went out there and I was shocked to see what I seen. It was still this long and still vacant and unkept, and not, all the violations I seen. Basically, I've got rodents living along the side of the garage and the front. I've got consecutive tickets for failure to register abandoned. I have $1,187 in outstanding blight bills in this house. And I went by today, I took some fresh pictures of it, and nothing's changed. It's still exactly the last time I was there. So I don't know what to do with this one. It's a nice neighborhood, right directly adjacent to St. Anne's, and it's really nice. I mean, it's a shame that nobody's done, this person has not done anything. We also have back taxes on this. According to our title, 2022 taxes are delinquent, 23 taxes are due. Now, I checked, today was a sale at the county, and this home was not on the list. I was hoping it might have been on that list for the sale for the county, so maybe somebody could buy it. So, and fix it, because I have had 2 inquiries, and once this hit the council agenda, I've had 2 people call saying what's going on with the house. And I don't know the owner. The owner did not attend the hearing. So I'm at a standstill with this one.
Thank you, Mr. Lizay. I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak on the matter?
I'm Leroy Holmes, and I live in the St. Anne subdivision, and I've been looking at this for, like he just said, years. And I called, and they said, well, long as the people are paying taxes, there's nothing they could do. Well, it's time for something to be done, because just like this gentleman said, you got trees growing out of the roof, out of the chimney, and cats and roaches, I don't know what, all rats, they're all hanging around in there. So, I mean, if somebody can buy it and fix it up, so be it. But either that or it would be demolished.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else want to speak on the matter?
Hi, I live in the neighborhood, within 300 feet,
can
so
you
we
give
have
us
the letter to
your
come.
name?
My
Can you
name's
give-
Carl Rader.
Thank you.
Okay. And yes, it's an eyesore. It is pathetic. Every time you drive by the house, it's a house without a soul. Something truly needs to be done. Anybody who lives there knows it. I just have to say, do you know the house? Yes, they know the house. And it's been years. So, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak on this matter? Okay, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to council for action.
Motion to approve with discussion.
Support.
Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. Through the chair to Mr. Lizay. Good evening again. In looking back at this, I'm seeing delinquent taxes dating all the way back to 2012. There appears to be a one-time on-time payment, or relatively on-time payment, back in the summer of 2021, but all other taxes were forwarded to the county. So this has been off the books for quite some time. There are no permits active. The last permits pulled were from building in 2014, and those were canceled.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, what I have from the title date, this is titling from March 7th of this year, and what I'm showing is the taxes, like I discussed, 22 were delinquent, 23 are due. Sometimes the taxes do not show, if taxes are paid at the county, sometimes they do not show up in our system like it'll show a zero paid, but it could go to the county and get recorded, but not show up in our BSNA system. So that's why I rely on the title for what's current, and just as of March of 23 being delinquent. I don't know, or 22, I don't know why 23 are not delinquent yet, but.
Yeah, unfortunately, even the appearance of the taxes going to the county are usually indicative of a larger problem.
Oh, I agree.
And unfortunately, it's commensurate with the condition of the home. Have you or your team been inside the home
I have
to
not been
inspect
in
it?
it. We have not been inside this house since 2014, 10 years ago.
So we don't know if the bones of the house are
No, we
in any
don't.
condition to be salvaged. That's
It's-
really what I'm after here.
Right,
because
and
if
I've had 2 calls, since this got posted on the agenda, I had 2 people already called, they would like to buy this, but I don't know what to tell them. I'm not a real estate agent, I'm just the building inspector here, you know, the person who owns this, or the investment company that owns this. And I have 2 other properties that this company owns as well that I'm going next to, that have been vacant, not as long as this one, but they've been vacant for probably 4 years. Same company owns them, and the same thing with the VPR tickets, the blight bills. So I don't know why this person doesn't sell these properties, but nobody's came to the hearing, so I've had no contact. I send registered letters, and I've had no calls from the owner on this.
But we do know who the owner is.
Well, according to my title, according to the title that you have a copy of, this, who I have as the owner. So I don't know what to say.
I really would like to understand if the county is going to do a sheriff's sale where they're going to take ownership of the home. And at times like this, Ms. Moore, this is a great opportunity for a land bank. And get our hands on the house, rehab it, and put it back on the market, and cure the problem in the neighborhood. Absent that, that should be on the mayor's desk for signature, so we should be seeing that anytime soon.
I was hoping, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what I'd like to know is, in your expert opinion, how much time do we need, or how much time do you need? Can you reach out to the county to find out what the status is at a potential sheriff's collection on this, to understand how much time we might need to move this into a developer's hands, potentially to move it to developers?
That I'm unsure of. My contact is in property maintenance that monitors the sheriff's sales, and there was one, that's why I called down today, and there was one today, and unfortunately I was hoping this would be on that list, and it wasn't. Because I would love to see somebody buy it and fix it, but the problem is I don't know when the next, I believe that my contact in property maintenance, what happens is she must reach out, must have a contact at the county. It gives her ones that are coming up for auction, and then she flags them in my system so I can even see. When I pull up a BSNA, a flag will be there. This property is going back for tax forfeiture. Auction date of today was September 10th, and this one did not have a flag on it. So I don't know how often they do these auctions, but I do have a contact where I can find out when it will go to auction, I guess.
Okay.
So I don't monitor that, but I have resources to find out.
Okay. Yeah, this home is in the neighborhood that I represent. I'm very familiar with this house and the surrounding neighborhood. I want to give relief to the neighbors, but my preference has always been, if we can rehab good bones of a house and put it back on the market, that's my first preference. If we can't, then we have no choice. We follow our procedures, we demo the house, and we sell a vacant piece of property. So I will yield if anybody else on council has comments before I make a motion.
Madam President,
Mr. Noonan.
in my opinion, this one's gone on way too long, and I think it would send a good message to property owners who are not doing well by their neighborhoods. I think that Councilman Lafferty's idea sounds wonderful, but I don't know how long all that would take, and how much more should the neighbors have to suffer. And, I'm not saying I'm totally against your idea. Do you have any response, please?
I agree with you, Mr. Noonan.
Mr. Lafferty, do you have any response to that?
I'm not sure what kind of response you're asking
Oh,
from me.
well, your idea is to consider postponing the demolition of this house, right? Did I
Through the
not
chair,
understand it right?
It is that I always want to try to preserve the house if we can.
Yeah,
But my contention here is the city had, by the time it's gotten here, how long has this been in contention with the city? Months to get in touch with someone, and you still haven't been successful in getting in touch with anybody.
I posted this on Safe on March 6th of '24. That's when I started this. I thought for sure I'd have somebody come through and do something with this property, but nothing has happened since.
And this is, if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like a rental property. And it's it's under the control of an LLC in Bruce Township.
It was, and I've sent letters to that address. This house was purchased from HUD back in '12, I believe.
Maybe we should ask our police department to go out to that address and haul that person down and ask them to live in the home until they fix it. I would really like to be able to do that. You know, these are slumlords, folks. We don't deserve to live like this. This is our neighborhood. If you want to own a home, well, darn it, you're going to take care of it. This is not acceptable. So, officers, can you head out to Bruce Township and pick this guy up? It doesn't look promising, Mr. Lizay, is what I'm getting at.
I agree.
If, we come back to the county, let's say the county does put it up for auction, by the time it goes through that process, I mean, we may be looking at, compelling these residents to look at this house for another 1, maybe 2 years before any action is taken. Perhaps I'm talking myself out of even
No, I have no
my first
idea
preference.
whenever any next pending sale of this, or forfeiture of the property to the county is.
All right. Well, let's do this. I'm going to make a motion to approve this demolition. Let's send a message to the owners of this Bruce Township address. Let them know that we're taking their house down, that we're going to send them the bill for the demolition, and that they have 30 days to contact us if they want to save the home and come up with a plan within 90 days to rehab it in totality.
okay.
That's your updated motion?
That's my motion.
Ms. Moore, are you comfortable with that update?
Yes.
Any additional discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes, and I hope the other landlords who are in similar positions hear what we're doing here.
Brogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next
Thank you.
item.
Point of order, Madam Chair. While Mr. Lizay is still standing there, do have a question. Michael Street, the home on Michael Street?
Still in court. I had a discussion
Still in
with the
court.
city attorney today. Yes. I may be deposed to a hearing for that house.
Okay.
I'm
could
not
you-
sure it's all, you'd have to contact our legal department. Right now, it's still pending, and they may have a hearing at court, in circuit court over it. Is what
Okay.
I think is next. It's still tied up in court. I believe there was a motion filed just recently this week by the judge, and they're waiting for the outcome of the motion.
Thank you. Through the chair, to the city attorney's office, if they could send a letter to council office for an update on the Michael house with all of the details and what we're looking at.
Laura Sullivan is the attorney who's been working on this in the attorney's office.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lizay. Well, you can sit tight. There's another one. Actually, no, it's just to collect proceedings, so you're all set. Next
Madam
item.
Chair, point of order. Just to let everyone know, the screen by the flag is broken, but a new one, I think, is coming in Wednesday or sometime. So we apologize for that.
Next item. Ms.
Next item is 11C, consideration and adoption of a resolution to approve collection proceedings relating to the removal of a garage only at 11220 Dodge pursuant to the 37th District Court.
Motion to approve.
Public hearing.
Oh, this,
I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak on this matter? Hearing and seeing none, I will close the public hearing. I will turn it over to council for action.
still, motion to approve.
Support.
Motion Lafferty, support Moore. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes,
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12A, consideration and adoption of a resolution approving assignment of grant writing agreement for GovHR USA LLC to MGT Solutions LLC. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Ms. Moore.
Thank you. Ms. Michaels, are you handling this? Or the letter came over under your signature? Because I've read through the documents, and I'm not sure who this person or this company is reporting to within the city. So maybe you could address it.
I believe currently Mr. Knapp is administering the services.
Okay. And that comes out of what budget?
That comes out of, I believe, let me check that. I should have the original.
I didn't find it in here, but I could have
No.
overlooked it, certainly.
No.
Mr. Fox.
Good evening, Council. I believe it's charged to the unallocated contractual services.
Okay. Did we discuss this during the budget hearings? I seem to remember.
I think so, but anyway, so what really happens is he works through each department. So if Parks and Rec has a grant and they request Mr. Cotton to help them prepare it, then Anthony would be doing it. If it's through the police department or fire or any department, he would work through that department, but his actual cost is being charged to that unallocated line item.
Okay. Have they been pretty successful for us?
Overall, yes. I mean, I think there's been some things that we haven't been able to dot the I and cross the T in order to get the grant. But overall, I personally feel he's done a great job. He's a very professional, and I think he can really help us. His contract is good through, I think it's December 25.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion?
Where is it?
I don't know. Madam Chair,
Mr. Lafferty.
through the chair to Mr. Fox, if you could please clarify, I know you don't have a copy of the budget in front of you. I do. And I don't see the line item under administrative unallocated. Is it
Contractual services?
contractual services is only the $50,000 line item that we assigned to a project manager that was intended to be used for Parks and Recreation. So I'm not sure.
Well, I would then just request I can send a copy to council where that's being charged to.
Of course. That's acceptable.
Because there's
Very
no
good.
allocation.
Thank you.
as well.
No. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Fox.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
yes,
Rogan C. is yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 12B, request of the RFP panel to award RFPW 1214 Health Insurance and Dental Insurance Agent Services for a 5-year period with the option to extend for an additional 3-year period, followed by an option to extend for an additional 2-year period with TMR Associates. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved with discussion.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. When we received the information over for this RFP, we have an obligation to pick the lowest bidder. And the company that was put forward was not the lowest bidder. And the justification for that was that when reviewing references, the city discovered an unfavorable response to the lowest bid. I asked what that was, and I was told that basically we couldn't have that information, that it was confidential. I then communicated to the acting HR director. Oh, she's not even acting. I don't know what to call her, but that any information she had was not exempt from disclosure to council. That we have to make a decision, and we should have access and have that information. So the answer was that they would have a team response by the end of the day. Team response, which made me a little leery because I know what team responses mean. I then got information that was very vague. Where am I trying to find it here? Our criteria is that the city needs our broker to work proactively, and the information we received did not align with the city's needs. We were told that the company-client relationship started strong but has weakened over time. They also mentioned that timely response was a concern. I think this is pretty vague and ambiguous, and certainly wouldn't be enough for me to pick one company over the other. And I was also curious because the company that had the lowest bid, all three of their references indicated to us that they were never called by the city. So I'm curious exactly who gave that information. Ms. Dameron's not here. I don't think this is the way we should, if you have a real reason, give it to us. But I think playing this little game with council is not productive. I spent 2 or 3 days going back and forth with emails and getting responses that I thought were not quite adequate. I don't know what council wants to do with this. I don't know who gave that bit of information. There's no way for me to verify it. This is absolutely nothing against TMR. They've done a really good job. I've known Mr. Mueller for years and years and years, more than either of us want to admit to, I think. And they do a good job, and that's nothing to do with that. I certainly am not out to stop him from getting the bid, but this is just not the way we should have information disseminated to council. So,
Does anyone else in the administration want to speak on the matter? Ms. Warren?
Hi, I'm Marilyn Warren, the Benefits Administrator. I've been working with TMR and Associates for the past 16 years, and they have done an outstanding job. They've saved the city so much money. We make minor adjustments in various areas. I don't feel a need for change. I really don't. Why fix something that's not broken? I've looked at all the RFPs that came through, and as well as a team of the people that were on the RFP staff, or committee. Everybody felt that TMR was the best choice. So I
just some
hope you vote.
clarification. That's one thing, but what I guess Ms. Moore is bringing up is that the reason why the lowest bidder wasn't picked is because references were unfavorable, and then that information wasn't necessarily provided. And what she's stating is that the references stated they weren't actually called, that were at least listed on the application. So that would be helpful for us to know if that is accurate information, or...
I didn't make the reach out to the other cities.
Okay.
So I can't speak to that.
Thank you.
Ms. Warren, Ms. Warren, sorry. I have absolute respect for you and your opinion about TMR, but that, because you're happy with somebody, there'd be no reason for us to ever do an RFP then. You could just say, I'm happy with them, I don't want somebody else, even if they were the lower bidder.
And it's not just me.
No. I don't mean just you.
Okay.
But as a city, I'm happy with a lot of people. And I could say, hey, I want to give Mr. Fox this deal. I want him to be, you know, a controller for life, and I don't care what he charges us. But that's not the way it works here. We send out, we have professional services, RFPs, and we have to take the lowest bidder. We have some contractors that actually don't do a very good job sometimes. Their prices are different, but we give them the work because we have an obligation to take the lowest bidder. That's my only point. Then why do an RFP to get the prices from people if we're just going to make a decision on who we want to keep? And I'm not blaming you at all for this. You had nothing to do whatsoever with this information going back and forth. I wouldn't have gotten the same information if you were doing this. So,
Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Madam President?
Mr.
Through the
White.
chair to Secretary Moore. Being an RFP, do we have a council member assigned to that? Okay. Unfortunately, she's not here. Was there any communication between you and her? If she received the information, what was unfavorable?
She did not. She did keep in communication with me whether I had received the information back. I don't know if I spoke with her with the last bit of information I have. You know, I don't necessarily, I don't want to stop TMR from getting this business. That's not my point. They have done a good job.
I agree.
But why are we doing the RFP process if
If
we're
we're
not
on
going
an
to be
RFP and we don't know the information, how could the council person report back to us? It's
And we're not being
unacceptable.
transparent. Any department then could say, you know, Mr. Rushton, they could go out for bid for body cameras, and, you know, his friend comes in and he says all the other people are horrible. I mean,
Just from my own experience, my first one was with Mr. Mazzarelli with the waste management. And we had meetings and I was there for them all, and all the questions were asked and answered. And went back and forth to get answers the way it's supposed to. And now for them not to give us the information on hearsay information to begin with, because they're not documenting it, is unacceptable. And I'll just leave it at that.
and I would make, you know, I made the motion to approve, but I think we have some serious problems. We all know we have serious problems in HR, not with Ms. Warren, not at all. But something's got to be done. This pattern cannot continue on. And we have an obligation to the residents to be transparent. This is not transparent. We shouldn't have to fight to get things for council. I wasn't even offered information to keep confidential. So that's problematic in itself, and I don't know that I should be the arbiter of what should be confidential. But anyway.
I'll yield back to your
I'm
chair.
done.
Madam President?
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. And Ms. Moore, I don't think you have to be the arbiter. I'm certain city charter has something to say to, through the chair to Mr. Schroeder. Can you comment on what the charter might say about such a situation?
That's actually in the purchasing ordinance under the charter, which requires a purchasing ordinance. With respect to this, it says when proposals are issued, and I'm going to quote section 2-337.8 for those who are following along. It says when requests for proposals are issued, subsection F, when a proposal is accepted and sent to council for approval, it should also include the information why it was chosen and others were rejected, and also a financial history and references from other jobs it has done. So when they're talking in code here and saying that there's some major problem and you're getting this vague information, I don't know that that's in compliance with the ordinance, which requires, you know, you're getting references. You are saying why you're rejected. The companies that apply to the city for lucrative contracts know that they're subject to public scrutiny. I certainly know that as somebody who has applied and got a contract and got a lot of scrutiny, but that's part of the deal. When you apply for a, you know, city, a municipal, a state contract, a federal contract, you may be scrutinized. We've seen congressional committees say all kinds of things about contractors. This is a public meeting, it's a public contract, so that's certainly part of it. So I echo everything else Ms. Moore and Councilwoman Moore and Councilman Lafferty said, but that's what the ordinance says. So,
Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Mr. Lafferty.
So we don't have to we shouldn't even have to ask for transparency here. It's codified in our ordinance. And I can only shake my head at, I saw the email exchanges, and this is not something that, I thought we were done with this from the previous term. So it's disappointing at best. I have no issue with who the RFP panel has recommended, but certainly would like to see some improvement on the administrative side of this to ensure that we receive all of the information unredacted, unrestricted, and in compliance with the purchasing ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Schroeder. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Lafferty, would you want to approve it with some additional information before the reconsideration period?
I'm happy with what Ms. Moore was able to bring out from HR based on her exchange. If she has no objections, any further objections to it, then I'm going to withhold any personal objections to it.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Moore?
I mean, I would certainly like to know where the information came from, because if it didn't come from the references, where did they get it from? I know that this company does work for most municipalities, big ones around, so I don't know how now they can be that horrible, because they do Sterling Heights and Southfield and Shelby and Grand Rapids. I think, I don't know where they are. But anyway, I just think that this has got to be just the last time we're dealing with something like this from this department. I mean, when is it going to end? I mean, everything is a mess.
So,
I don't know.
Madam Secretary, then, Madam Chair, what I will do is make an amendment to request of the HR department to provide all reference material pertinent to this RFP, all references received, dated, and time-stamped, and to be forwarded to council office within 10 days.
If I could just make a note. We're not required to take the lowest bid, but when you're giving justification for why we're not taking the lowest bid, it should be honest. And we should have a transparent back and forth with council. And if the justification is, this is the best company we've ever worked for, and we heard this other guy steals money, or whatever. But this vague, started out strong, ended up weak. I don't know what that means. That means nothing to me. That's, if somebody said, well, whatever, they started and then they weren't responding to anything we said, and they were rude and blah, 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 but this is a little too nebulous for me. Anyway, I don't want to see this happen again, and we just have to do a better job.
So Mr. Lafferty has a modified motion on the floor.
Get the
You made the
information.
motion, Ms. Moore. You
I support it.
Okay.
Madam President?
Mr. Noonan. And then we're going to move on.
Sure. I think that one of the key items here would be that we should be able to call people to verify the information that we've gotten. And it seems like we haven't gotten enough information that we could do that. And I'd like to ask the other council members if that's actually the case. Am I understanding that correctly? Thank you, Ms. I yield.
Madam Chair?
Ms. Moore.
I think when there's a lack of trust, and that's what's happened, is we're developing a lack of trust in a lot of situations. Things are not coming to us forthcoming. We're fighting with everything. We're going to come down here to another item on the agenda where we were not given the appropriate. There's 3 things we're probably going to have to table because we were not provided the right information. And we shouldn't have to keep begging for information. We have a court order that says anything the administration has, we get. We don't have to FOIA it or anything else, we get it. So anyway, I'm done with this conversation. I accept Mr. Lafferty's request and call the motion if you want.
Ms. Warren, do you have parting words?
So Mr. Lafferty is requesting any emails or something that was pertinent to this information? My understanding, it was all verbal.
Then I would say that someone should type up a report and send that as, a confidential memo.
Okay.
if it was a verbal conversation. Thank you. Call the question, Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mr. Boyke.
Yes.
Mr. Noonan.
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 13A, Council Secretary Mindy Moore, discussion and Ray Downtown Development Authority DDA fiscal year 2025 budget. I'm not going to drag this out. I'm going to give a little brief where I'm at and why I'm asking for what I am. I'm going to ask for a report. We had budgeted $10,000 for atrium furniture in the DDA capital outlays budget. And I was informed, actually, Mr. Boyke was at the meeting on last week, and it was up to almost $74,000, and that amount wasn't budgeted. The indication from the controller's office was that there was money left over from another line item, and as long as there was money left over, they could use it for anything they want. I listened to the tape. Mr. Boyke asked the question, if we had budgeted $1.5 million for the fire escape that was requested and it wasn't put in, could that money be spent? And the indication was that it could be spent for anything they wanted to spend it for. So once again, this is appearing to be the slush fund of the mayor's office. And we're not going to do that anymore. I'm going to ask Mr. Fox. I know he's coming up here. I'm not going to have a conversation today about this, Mr. Fox. I want a report of all the expenditures from the DDA July 1 and what line item they came from. Also, I want to indicate that I did listen to the tape, and Ms. Michaels indicated that she didn't believe the city council had any say whatsoever over the DDA and thought there should be clarification, which to me indicates that she is proposing they go to court. We have been to the Supreme Court. I certainly don't want to see any more litigation between the administration and city council, and I hope that is not the intent of this administration. So I would just ask for that report of all line items. I know it was mentioned by Mr. Mazzarelli that we had praised him for saving money and using money for something else. I don't know that I looked at the line item at that point. You know, sometimes we don't know if something comes that's left over from the previous year's budget. We just don't know that. So that's all I'm asking for from this year, fiscal year 24-25, July 1, what was spent in the DDA, what line item, and where that is at. So that is my motion, and once we get that information, then we can figure out you know, how things are going to work. It could be absolutely that the accounting laws and rules of the state for DDAs say that if you put it in another bucket, you can take it out of that bucket and put it in this bucket and spend it hither yon, however you want to do it. I don't know that. If that's the case, we're going to have to go back to zeroing out, I guess, every item and having the DDA come for everything they want to spend. That's cumbersome and a waste of everybody's time. I hope we don't have to do that. But let's get the information first. That's information that can be done. Yep, thank you. And then how about we deal with it later? Right? So my motion is just to request all the expenditures of the DDA, what line item they came from, and where we're at in the balances in each of the line items.
Support anyone?
Support Lafferty.
Discussion beyond Ms. Moore's note. More than a note, I suppose. But all right, I'll call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Next item.
Next item is 13B. Councilmember Jonathan Lafferty, discussion in Ray ordinance protecting the use of city logos, insignia, and emblems. So moved.
Support Lafferty with discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On Friday, September 6th, Council received an invitation via email to a private event, or what appeared to be a private event. And upon review of the flyer, I found it to contain the City of Warren's Dawn logo. And after emailing an inquiry to the mayor's office and advising that the city attorney's office should contact the host of the event for illicit use of the logo, Ms. Haw from the mayor's office responded that the event was indeed not city-sponsored. I then took to do a little research of our city charter and any applicable ordinances. I found that Chapter 2, Article 1, Sections 2.1 through 2.3 apply to the establishment of our city seal, municipal flag, and deceptive use of a term or symbol representing the city. Chapter 12, Article 3, Section 12-14 is in regard to filming and the use of the city logo, insignia, badges, or decals for filming purposes. Otherwise, I found no relevant sections that define the appropriate use of our city logo, our seal, and any likeness of the city. So I reached out to Mr. Schroeder and confirmed my findings. And so what I'm requesting tonight is that City Council make a formal request to create an ordinance establishing the standards and procedures for use of the city seal, its emblem, and all insignias. The primary goal of this ordinance shall provide standards and procedures for the use of the city seal and insignia, logos, etc., to develop a citywide enforceable policy framework to ensure the appropriate use for clear identification of city-sponsored and/or endorsed publications, correspondence, and property. Further, this ordinance shall govern all materials, whether printed, electronic, or virtual, identify all entities, offices, and also identify officers within the employ of the city permitted to use the city seal. Further, the ordinance shall determine all permissible and requisite use of the city seal and exemptions where the City Council may deem it necessary by resolution for an alternative seal or emblem or grant an exception. Further, the ordinance shall explicitly identify restrictions and prohibitions constituting the inappropriate use of the city seal. Further, the ordinance shall call for the establishment of a style guide to define exact colors, fonts, and precise allowable proportions, which will further define a timeline for all materials not compliant with the ordinance to be phased in within 6 months of adoption of this ordinance. This timeline includes, but is not limited to, printed materials, brochures, business cards, letterhead, folders, envelopes, invoices, and vehicles. Further, this ordinance shall establish sanctions for the misuse of the city seal in the form of a civil infraction, fine, and all manners of enforcement. Council, that is my motion for consideration.
Madam Chair?
Support Dwyer.
So it was my understanding that the city seal cannot be used by others. I don't know where, if it's in the charter or whatever, but that the logo could be because it had never been copyrighted and we don't own it. So I don't know if we have to do that first or,
Ms.
I
Michaels,
don't know.
you can come up if you have something to say.
This has come up in campaign literature, that issue.
I'm sorry, for clarification, Dawn is copyrighted.
Oh, it is?
The artist obtained the copyright, assigned it to the DDA. But the city seal is separate, and it is true, it is not copyrighted.
Okay, I got them mixed up, okay,
Thank you, Ms.
Sorry.
Michaels.
okay. Because Dennis and everybody I get all the time from a dentist with Dawn logo in the city every week.
From who?
A dentist.
Oh.
People use it on campaign literature, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Any discussion, other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Boyke?
through the chair to Councilman Lafferty, and would it matter if this was a city sponsor and having that logo on there?
I have no issue if it's a city-sponsored event, put the city seal, the Dawn logo, whatever manner of representation of a city-sponsored, endorsed, sanctioned, and insured event. I have no issue with that.
I feel the same. Have we received any notification if this is a city-sponsored or a private event?
The only notification I received
Is
was
the
the
flyer.
response from the mayor's office from Ms. Haw that said this
I
was
see.
not a city-sponsored event. But given the turmoil following the June Pride event and the questions that have arisen, I know Mr. Dwyer is still awaiting information that, you know, our logo appeared, it wasn't there, then it was, and this is how questions arise, because we don't have this information clearly codified in our charter, within our ordinances that cover and govern all of its use.
Thank you. Yield back to Chair.
Any additional discussion?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Lafferty?
Just as anecdotally, we ran into this a couple of years ago. There was a ballot question committee that was looking to save our city. And one of the flyers that was sent out by the Citizens Alliance illegally used the county logo. And I knew that an ordinance had been passed by the county back in 2014 governing the protections of the logo. And we don't have a strong enough, based on the sections that I've read, of course I'll defer to Mr. Schroeder for the strength and intent of those ordinances, those mentions at least in those sections. I don't believe that we are properly protecting the likeness and the identification of our city, its logos, its insignias, and its identity. So I believe this is a good step forward. We should have this on the books and something that we can point to saying that this is what governs it, even with reaching out to an individual saying, you're not allowed to use the city logo. Well, show me where I'm not allowed to. Well, we can't. It's our logo. You shouldn't use it, but I don't have a rule, a policy, an ordinance stating as such. We're in an indefensible position at the moment.
Okay. I will call the question.
Just through the chair.
Mhm.
Just one last question. The city seal, there's a copyright on that, correct?
No, it's on the Dawn logo, correct? Is that what I heard?
Okay, thank you.
Any last call for discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Next item.
14A, request of the 37th District Court for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $400,000 to account for the receipt of a grant from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved. 5 votes are needed.
Support Lafferty.
Discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
14B, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted appropriations in the amount of $95,000 to cover the increased costs for the installation of police vehicle accessories to meet the Police Department's specific needs. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved. 5 votes are needed.
Support Dwyer.
Support Dwyer. Moore made the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
14C, request of the Police Department for an increase in budgeted revenues and appropriations in the amount of $112,500 to account for the receipt of a grant from the State of Michigan's Michigan Commission in Law Enforcement Standards, MCOLS. Consideration and adoption of a resolution. So moved. 5 votes are needed.
Support Boyke.
Discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes.
Mr. Noonan?
Yes.
Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is 14D, request approval of the reappointment of Oscar Zamora to the Downtown Development Authority with a term expiration of June 30th, 2026. Motion to table.
Support to table.
I will call the question. Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty?
Yes to table.
Mr. Dwyer?
Yes to table.
Mr. Boyke?
Yes to table.
Mr. Noonan?
No to table.
Rogan C. is a no. Item is tabled.
14E, request approval of the appointment of Shaniqua Sanders Pierce to the Sidewalk and Tree Commission with a term expiration of June 30th, 2024. Motion to table.
Support to table.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty,
Yes to table.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes to table.
Mr. Boyke,
Yes to table.
Mr. Noonan.
Yes to table. I think the reason for tabling might...
No,
No
discussion on the
discussion.
tabling motion.
Fine.
Was it a yes or no? Sorry. If you could
That
repeat.
was yes to table?
Thank you. Rogan C is a yes. Next item.
14F, notice of reappointment of John Perry to the Civil Service Commission with a term expiration date of June 30th, 2027. Table.
So motion to table.
Yes.
Support to table.
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Lafferty,
Yes to table.
Mr. Dwyer,
Yes to table.
Mr. Boyke,
Yes to table.
Mr. Noonan.
Yes to table.
Rogan C is a yes. Next item.
Next item is 14G, which was 4G on the consent agenda. Request of the library director to award bid ITBW 1322, printing, bundling, and shipping the Warren Winter Program Guide booklet to Grand Blank Printing, Inc. in a total amount not to exceed $37,660. Consideration and adoption of a resolution.
So moved with discussion.
Colleagues, I need a support.
Support Dwyer.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. In reading the resolution, I have an amendment, but I wanted to preface this. This is the first time that we are looking at a revised approach to the Newsbeat. So as people will recall that we used to have the Newsbeat publication. That was a line item of $150,000 in the communications budget, and this council split that allocation, $50,000 to the library and $90,000 to Parks and Recreation. So they do have sufficient funds to cover this. My concern is that absent the establishment of a seated Mail and Publications Commission or a Communications Commission, that we do not have any oversight as to the content of what is being printed. And that was the issue of how we arrived at this solution, to give two departments that have a necessity to communicate with residents the ability to properly fund them and to give them the means to come up with something that is more reasonable. And I believe, Ms. Moore, you had suggested looking at Macomb Community College and the way they list all of their classes. It's effective, it reaches multiple homes, it doesn't have to be glossy and photographic, it just has to be functional. And so looking at this cost, there were no examples of what was going to be printed. So I am asking to amend the resolution that it is resolved that the bid of Grand Blank Printing is hereby accepted by City Council in the total amount not to exceed $37,660, pending the review and approval of the publication's final draft. That is my amended motion.
Support Dwyer.
You're comfortable with that amendment, Mr. Dwyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Mr. Noonan.
I think that I can generally support this, but I think that it needs to be better coordinated in order to make sure that what has been drafted comes out in a timely fashion. I don't know what would be added to this, except that the administration should be clear that they need to get those things put together rapidly in order for us to have time to approve it and for them to still get it out in a timely fashion. Because the parks and the library are talking about events, And if the publication comes out after events have already happened, then it's going to be problematic. Thank you.
Any additional discussion?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Lafferty.
Just in response to Mr. Noonan, absolutely. And with this type of publication, based on the discussion that we had at budget hearing time, I should have said it was rather inferred that we wanted to see the materials before they were going out. So the timeline should have been built into this. And in case I wasn't abundantly clear, the amendment should read, pending the review and approval of the publication's final draft by City Council.
Okay. All right.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I will call the question. Mr. Lafferty.
Yes.
Mr. Dwyer.
Yes.
Mr. Boyke.
Yes.
Mr. Noonan.
Yes.
Ms. Moore. Yes. Rogan C. is a yes. Motion carries. Next item.
Next item is audience participation for general topics.
Members of the audience who would like to address City Council this evening may do so by filling out a form located, thank you, at the right side of the stage. Reminder, write your name and address on the audience form or give it at the podium. You have 3 minutes. The clock is here. First up is Lori Harris.
Hi, Lori Harris. To the citizens in Warren, I want to apologize for not fighting harder against injustice that I see, where our citizens are being victimized. And I'm not going to stop fighting. And it's come at a cost in terms of what has been said about me and to me, but that's okay because I am fighting for you, for the citizens. I also want to remind people that we really would like more residents involved. Come to the planning meetings. I went last night to the planning meeting, and sad to say that the planning director put something on the agenda, but the petitioner is in court, has not had a certificate of compliance for 2 years, is operating his business without that certificate of compliance. Why are we thinking of giving him more opportunities in the city? Why isn't there communication between the departments so that kind of mistake doesn't happen? And I'm wondering if I hadn't mentioned it, would anybody on the commission have even addressed it? So we need more people to pay attention and come get involved with the city. I also want to remind you that that ADA is a civil law, and I'm sure some of you are probably noticing now that when you go to shopping centers or strip malls or businesses, you can see now where there aren't signs or there aren't ramps, there's no access. And Tony Baker and Dorothy have been fighting really hard for this, and we're going to keep trying to bring that up so we can make progress. There is a Disabilities Commission meeting Thursday at 6:30 at the library at Civic Center, and I am sure they would welcome residents to come and give input on accessibility issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Yvonne Palawada.
Good evening, City Council. Last time I was here, I presented you a petition enforcing city ordinance section 23-6 on maintaining Veterans Memorial Park 24/700 Campbell Road. I was trying to accomplish a sign to be installed, no mini bikes allowed, because I didn't want any more excuses or ignorance, not knowing about this ordinance with the juveniles and the juveniles' parents. First step, I came to you. The second step, I tried to get a hold of the road commissioner. I went to DPW, and then I went to the police department. Sergeant Frank Curon was nice enough to take time out and listen to me. I gave him a copy of the petition I had. I explained to him what I was trying to do, and I'm new at this, and I'm trying to figure out what the next step is to do. I had told him that July 17th, around 8:40 p.m., I have footage of the juvenile running through on a mini bike and right through the main middle of the park, almost hitting people. I have footage of the police sitting at the end of the park, not doing nothing. This is what's making me upset. What do I do? I'm trying the best, okay? The next step is we have homeless all around the park perimeter, leaving their stuff, pillows, blankets, whatever. And I've talked to them and I've asked them, what's bringing you here to this park? Well, they got run out of Hoover, where the Kroger's is at, behind the Kroger's. They were told to move on. They're telling me, a police officer's telling them to come to this park, sleep on the picnic tables at night. If it's too cold or rainy, they can go inside the bathrooms and sleep. You know, we're getting sick of it. Our community wants something done. Everybody's afraid to speak out. I'll try my best to do whatever I can. Also, I'm sitting there in the park having a golf cart driving right through and almost running over my feet. What do you do? What do I do? I don't know. How can I help? I'm trying step by step. Thank you for your time.
If you give your contact information to Ms. Camp, we can follow up with the police department. I think would be the appropriate place to bring this up. She can forward your information to council and we can send it on to the police department.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, next is Michael Bellotti.
Hello, council members. I'm being harassed by the Department of Property Maintenance and Inspection. On the 4th, I received a warning notice for rubbish on my property, specifically a bounce house in my driveway. The bounce house does not obstruct the sidewalk, it's deflated when not in use, and my children use that bounce house every day. I called the supervisor and asked him what code I'm violating since the bounce house is not rubbish, and he couldn't answer. Instead, he suggested I just put it in my garage. Again, I asked him, what code am I violating because that is a hassle? He said, I am not, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Again, I'm asking what code I violated. He said, just put it in the garage. I told him, until he produces a true code violation, I will not move it. At 9 a.m. this morning, 5 days after the original notice, 3 men came out to my house to take pictures of my property. These men tried to claim again that the bounce house is in violation of city code because it's rubbish. A kid's toys is not rubbish, and we told them that. I asked for his name, which he did not disclose, and asked multiple times what city code I'm violating, and he never answered. As I'm discussing this, on my property, he decided to try to look over my fence and take pictures to look for anything else he can harass me with. This is not a HOA. This is a private property that I own and didn't have any rubbish on my property. He's repeatedly come on my property, which has forced me to install a front and backyard camera. I will not be harassed on my own property. When will this end? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Wesley Arnold.
Sorry, I'm old. I'm running.
Thank you very much for all your time. It is greatly appreciated. I'm the very old Warren historian, and I always have to mention that citizens can see thousands of free pictures on warrenhistory.info. Reason I'm here, I'm a former fireman. I almost died a few times. Once in one of the fires in Warren. Therefore, I must remind everyone, this is mostly for the audience, TV audience, that it is time they replace the batteries in their smoke detectors. And if you have a smoke detector that's more than 10 years old, it's best to get a new one. CO2 detectors also have problems, and it is wise to have more than one. It is also very wise to have more than one smoke detector, especially have them in living areas and in teenagers' bedrooms. I guess I don't need to explain that. But if the earlier fumes are detected, the more lives can be saved. And because if people don't have several smoke detectors, or if they don't check the batteries, lives are at risk. This is very important. Just a note on the lady that talked about the problem in the parks. I was at the Saraline City Council last night, and they have a similar problem over by Saraline High School with teenagers and other people, just running wild. So you're not the only one that's got a problem with mini bikes and teenagers and speeding and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Joel Vanderlinden.
Joel Vanderlinden, longtime Warren resident. Members of this council has already talked about how they don't want to go legal battles and stuff with the mayor and go head to head with her. Subpoena her. You have the power to bring her here in front of you, in front of the public, and ask these questions that she's refusing to answer. You have that power. If you don't want to go to court, subpoena her. That'd be the first step. The second thing is, she's not listening to you. She's not doing her job. She doesn't care. As long as she's not afraid of you, she's going to walk right over you. It's time for you guys to stand up and represent the people that are here, the citizens of Warren, and stand up to her and her socialist ways. Lord knows if it was Jim Fouts, we'll be burning down the city to get him. Rightfully so. But she shouldn't have any carte blanche. It's been 10 months now. Positions aren't filled, committees aren't filled, jobs aren't being done, things aren't being put properly on the agenda. In fact, during correspondence from the mayor, there's hardly anything on there anymore. Why? Is she not doing her job? Is her department heads not sending the stuff through? What the hell's going on with this city? It's a sad fact that nothing's being done. She's actually worse than Fouts, and you're letting her be that way. Stand up. Make her take responsibility for her actions and lack of. Put her on the spot. Get her out of hiding in her office or over whoever's house, because she ain't here half the time. Don't worry about disappointing the party Worry about disappointing the citizens that voted you in. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you. Next is Gerald Hasbatcher.
Hi, I'm going to talk about the potential repurposing of the Warren Racket and Fitness Center right across from the police station. And I understand that the city council approved the purchase of the building through using DDA funds. My concern is that no one from the city council or from the DDA ever went over to the building and found out what was going on there. And what's going on there is that there are hundreds of athletes, martial arts groups, church groups, different kind of sports, racquetball, kids teaching their, parents teaching their kids soccer. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. Most of these people have thought up to this point that the building was owned by Parks and Rec. And of course, it wasn't. So when these athletes found out that the place would close, I saw their reaction. And I think you should go see it too. And you can see that on a variety of days. There's a group on Saturday morning I play with sometimes 10 to noon. You can stop by, stop in. Sunday from 6 to 8, there's the Volleyball Warriors, and they have about 80 members. On Monday is also a group of people. So it happens every week, and they've started a petition to try to get the city to not repurpose the building. Now, I know it's supposed to be used for a parking lot. And I think it can be used, I meant that the parking lot is in the works to be used by the police department. And I think that's okay. But the building can stay open for the purpose that it is. You may have signed off on what's going to happen to that property, but I think that if you went over there and you talked to some of these groups, you would find out that you would say something for their benefit and to have them stay in this group. Most of them are volleyball players. If you search volleyball, nothing comes up. Search volleyball in Southeast Michigan, nothing comes up. There's one school somewhere in Southeast Michigan that teaches kids how to play volleyball. So this is sort of
You're
like...
out of time, Mr. Hasbatcher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a
bye-bye.
good evening. Gloria Sanker is next.
Good evening, Council. I passed a yard sign the other day, and it said, "We support choice, freedom," is it on? Choice, freedom, and democracy. I kind of have an idea of what freedom and democracy is, but what about choice? Choice to have a job? Choice to have an education? What does choice mean? In this case, choice means for the Democratic platform, the choice to dispose of a baby. It's contradictory, though, because it really isn't a choice at all. It's a decision to get rid of a life. This happens to be the main topic of the Democratic campaign to winning the presidential election. Abortion is on the ballot. It's not the border. It's not public safety. It's not a better economy. It's abortion. Statistics show more than 63 million babies have been aborted in the United States since Roe versus Wade in 1973. Following abortion will be euthanasia. That's getting rid of the older folks. Of course, in a merciful way. That's how that will be sold. The Democrats are too much for abortion and too little for life. Kamala Harris wants a national pro-abortion policy. That is, abortion for all the states. And some of her Democratic colleagues don't want any medical help to the baby should it survive the abortion. This is extreme for normal thinking people. So the only way you can stop this atrocity is to stop voting for the party that promotes abortion. I heard Jennifer Granholm in a commercial say, she personally opposes abortion, but she's going for it because her party is for it. She is a Democrat. What kind of a person is this that does not vote their convictions? And we have politicians who will not allow the parents to notify their parents if a child is seeking to have an abortion. For those of you who say politics don't affect you, check your water bill, Warren residents. It just went up 7.5%. Your life is greatly affected by politics. And if the socialists get in November, it will be they who will decide your wealth and not you how it will be distributed. The world runs by those who show up to vote. I suggest you go to the polls and vote for the party that respects life, because one day you may be at their mercy.
You're out of time. Thank you, Ms. Anker.
Jonathan, thank you for singing that beautiful song.
You're out of time, Ms.
America the
Anker.
Beautiful. It is much more beautiful when we respect life. Thank you.
Next item.
Council response to audience, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just to follow up on Mr. Arnold's discussion about smoke detectors, if you are in need of a smoke detector, if you don't have any, if yours need to be replaced, please call the Warren firefighters at 586-759-9320, or you can email them at smokedetector@warrenfiredept.org. I'll put this again on council's Facebook. You can always call council office and they can give you the number, but don't go without a smoke detector because you don't know how to get them, how to install them, or you can't afford them. Please call the fire department because most people die because there are no smoke detectors in their houses during a fire. So please call if you need any, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, whatever you need. Thank you.
Any additional response?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Lafferty.
Thank you. The individual, I believe Michael Bellotti, that indicated he's having consistent issues with property maintenance, there could be a follow-up with property maintenance to council office on that particular issue, just to understand what the chain of events were and what codes are in violation so we can clear this matter up. I'm certainly certain that there's a misunderstanding between the two and we can help facilitate that.
Ms. Camp has his address.
Thank you.
Any additional response?
Madam Chair, just one more. I don't think Ms. Michaels was in here. I'm just going to update her on what the issue was. Someone has a bouncy house in their driveway, and property maintenance is coming out, so. Just so you're up to speed on that. Thanks.
Hearing and seeing no additional response. Next item.
Motion to adjourn.
Support Lafferty.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Have a good evening.